analyst this morning is Associate Professor Wilfred O.G. Telugu. You're welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure, Smart.
Yeah.
Nice having me.
All right. And then, Patience, yes. I think we'll move straight to the discussion segment. Prof, this morning, one of the major talking points from all the papers that we've read is the issue of litigation. This is coming on the heels that INEC says it has 600 pre-electoral cases in court before the 2023 election. And only yesterday, the CJN, talking about the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ariolo, actually inaugurated judges ahead of the 2023 election that will take care of litigations. Now, how do you react to the number of pre-electoral cases that we have even before the election, and the effort by the CJN to, of course, address litigation in 2023?
Well, so far this is just a reflection of what politics is in Nigeria, that there's so much concentration and emphasis on winning elections at all cost. And so it reduces elections into a situation where everything is deployed, just to win elections. And we find this kind of desperation where, there are pre-election issues, over 600 in courts, pending. And of course, it is not healthy for our electoral system, even for the political system. We recall in this country where sometimes mid-term into the tenure of a governor, or sometimes a national, legislation, the person is being removed and another person is being declared and of course sworn in and comes in. It truncates the process. It also truncates or disarticulates the electoral calendar and affects the operations of INEC in this country, given the fact that INEC gets the budget from the beginning, and of course our INEC doesn't have the autonomy it deserves, and so it is a problem for INEC in terms of organizing elections. But until we get these things right, the politics has become everything in Nigeria. The only sector that creates wealth, that generates wealth, and of course the private sector is not doing very fine. Very few people can go into private business, into private engagement. So politics becomes everything. Lawyers have a field day in this respect. Sometimes people will say that I wish I was a lawyer, because if you look at the kind of monies they're being paid just because of litigations, and of course judges also. And so the judiciary, has become that arm of government that makes a lot of, in quote and unquote, money from this kind of processes. But it clearly reveals one thing, our society is politically driven, centered on politics. We need to diversify that so that, there could be also other sources by which people can live and, of course, earn a legitimate, earning, not just politics alone. But for now, that is the most lucrative source, I bet you. You become a politician, you win a public office, it translates into everything. We must do something about it at the end of the day, either at the level of maybe trying to moderate again the earnings of public office holders in terms of their salaries, emoluments, and etc. It is simply fabulous and it's tempting. And everybody is running in that direction, using whatever available to make sure that, look, we achieve that goal of winning an election.
So do you see INEC and the courts concluding on all these 600 cases before the election? And maybe in addition, how can political parties help reduce this number of cases, pre-electoral cases?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say also is that, you see, because the whole essence of party formation, party participation, recruitment and everything is just centered on elections. And that's why we have this kind of crisis. If our political parties can do more in terms of political education and enlightenment, in terms of mobilizing people, even long before elections, we may reduce some of the pre-electoral cases we have. In terms of the deadline, nobody is sure if these cases will be cleared on time. Some of these cases might even linger on until even after the post-election, era. And of course, it affects everything, So is really, 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 you know, I wouldn't want to say crazy, but it's something really serious now, you know. So now we need to do something in terms of taking a look again at politics in our country, public offices, and what it attracts. And of course, coming out with long timetables in terms of transition from one political era to another in terms of the understanding. Of course, being able to focus more on voters' education, political education generally, to minimize some of these things that come in, because we're yet to understand the dynamics of what politics is all about. It's not everything that should end up in a court, you know, in litigations. But you see a lot of things ending up in a litigation, of course, at the end of the day, compounding the process for INEC. INEC has a timetable. Between now and February, are we sure that 600 cases will be cleared? It's not possible. Definitely this thing will spill over into the next year, even towards the end of next year, or even the other year.
So in this wise, has the judiciary really helped us? I mean, in trying to address some of these issues, because, you know, just the way you said, this is a moment for lawyers. They will always want to go to court. But if we'll be having sound judgment with all modesty and morality, I think it will reduce. So in this way, has the judiciary really helped in addressing this kind of encumbrances?
Well, the courts are there for everybody. So anybody can approach the courts if you feel aggrieved. You know, that is the essence of the law, the essence of the judiciary, you know, the kind of provides succor or hope for any person that's aggrieved. So in that respect, yes, the judiciary is doing well in terms of providing that platform where people can come out and say, look, I've been aggrieved, and I have a sense of injustice, and I think that something needs to be done about it. In that respect, yes, they're doing well. But let's also not forget this fact, that the same, you know, judiciary also is part and parcel of the Nigerian society.
That's right.
They're just like the National Assembly and etc. And so it's not too different from what we see, or the security agencies we see in this country. The same human beings, you find them in the judiciary, the same Nigerians, with the kind of challenge that Nigeria has in terms of, you know, our politics. And so we expect this kind of shortfalls and shortcomings when judges, you know, give sometimes or grant conflicting, you know, judgments, you know, that completely, sometimes these judgments are completely bizarre, and you know, look, this is purely political, you know. But it's the fact that there's the heavy presence of money, the entire process, you know, being monetized, the electoral process. This is the key challenge, that we need to do something to mop it up, to moderate it, to regulate it. And as long as we fail at that level, judges are human beings, just like security operatives. You know, and of course, the human tendencies and shortcomings, even though the CGN, the Chief Justice of the Federation, is doing a lot. He did that yesterday when he inaugurated an electoral tribunal. You know, but you see, there's an extent that you can be effective. You can't be everywhere at the same time. And of course, there are a lot of factors here put together. And so it's worrisome. But we keep hoping that things will get better with time.
All right, Prof, even as we hope that things will get better, let's still talk about this INEC issue. Even as it grapples with this 600 cases in court, there is another issue, that it wants new equipment because of the issue of floods that have destroyed over 20 INEC buildings. Now, what is the extent to which you can say that the 2023 general election can be credible, looking at these challenges on the ground?
Yeah, there are challenges on the ground, but of course INEC must have been proactive in terms of, you know, being able to see ahead that some, you know, challenges might come, what you call unforeseen, you know, obstacles and etc. The circumstances, and this is one of them, flooding. It could be any kind of disaster. And so what I do know that INEC will always do is that the equipments don't just come one. You know, there are supports, you know, equipments waiting. And if the first, you know, has been taken down by a disaster, then it can be replaced quickly. And that is always also covered in the national budget. But I think one thing that we must work towards in Nigeria is that let's see where we can have INEC offices that are secured. The mere sighting of an INEC office should also have this at the back of the mind. What if there's a fire disaster? What if there's a, you know, flooding disaster? Whatever kind of disaster, so these offices need to be secured. The second thing is that at the level of equipment, what kind of equipment Some equipments cannot just be kept in the INEC office. We have seen that from the past.
Materials.
Sensitive materials, security gadgets, and etc. You need to move them to more secure centers like the central bank or maybe perhaps military installations for safety. If you just throw them into any of the INEC offices around, then it doesn't make any sense. So they need to be specific. But I am confident that it will not matter in next year general elections, because in preparation, INEC takes into cognizance all of these exigencies and shortcomings that might come at the end of the day, and even the budget accommodates that. Those who manufacture our equipments, they know this, and sometimes there are what you may call additional spare that can be ordered and be flown into Nigeria quickly so that the elections won't be mad.
All right, let's move to education. That's your own constituency. Of course, we all agree that no society grows or developed beyond the level of the education of its citizens. And only yesterday, again, the meeting of ASUNEC ran overnight because of half salary payment, which will have new term now coming from the Minister of Labour, pro rata. Now, are we really serious in trying to address this issue of education in this country? Where lies the future of an average Nigerian child educational-wise?
All right, maybe I think just in addition, before you respond, you remember that the Speaker of the House of Representatives was the one that took the bold step to see that this issue was resolved. And now today is telling us that President Muhammadu Buhari is ready to intervene on this issue of pro rata payments.
Well, first and foremost, the House of Representatives is organizing an education summit. Tertiary institutions to look into some of these fundamental challenges of, tertiary education in Nigeria. And I think that at that summit, these issues will be best trashed, because at a platform like this, it's not going to be that easy. It's going to, that summit is going to come up towards the end of this month, and I think it will be nice. I'm going to be there because we want to see how we can make contributions to tertiary educational development in Nigeria, not just universities alone, but of course it cuts across. Now, secondly, I was amazed, and I'm still amazed, that the Speaker House of Representatives under a democracy, and under our constitution, will broker a peace, and of course a minister, appointed by the federal government, of course ratified by the same house, will flood that directive. It's never done in a democracy. It's something completely strange. And I have to look at the United States of America, and I say, is it possible that Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the House of Representatives in America, will give a directive or even will broker a peace, and the President of America will stop it? It never happens. We can find out these things. So there's something fundamentally wrong with this country, the way we run our democracy. To me, this is clear. Femi Bajamila has done his best. He's doing his best, but he won't get anywhere because, these ministers, so-called appointed ministers, are accountable to the public. This is the educational sector that is suffering under 1%, belligerence. If it were any other civilized democracy, that man would have gone by now.
That's right.
There's no doubt about it, but he's still there because it shows clearly that, look, we have a dictatorship in Abuja that cares very little about these people and about the welfare of this country. One person becomes a law in itself. Well, this is something that we have to leave it for some kind of debate. The ASUNEC ran into deep nights for sure, but ASUNEC cannot take a decision at that level. I can assure you that all local chapters across the country between today and by Friday will hold their congresses. And it is at that congresses at the local level that resolutions will be taken. Those resolutions will now be passed to the national, and the national will not take a decision. But it's not funny. See, this thing about half salaries, I want to repeat it again. Some people have not seen a dime. This is the fact.
Not even a half salary.
Not even a half salary. We can print our bank accounts and, of course, present them. And, of course, against the backdrop that 9 months of non-payment or salary, you're dealing with a commercial bank where sometimes you may defaulted in one London. So those are the challenges.
The half salary is for which month?
It's the month of October, because the strike was suspended 14th of October. You know, that was when the strike was suspended, remember. You know, when Femi Bajamila intervened, of course, it's for the month of October.
The intervention, was it for government to pay, is it the 8 months?
Everything, that was the agreement. That was the agreement.
If that was the agreement, why flouting the agreement?
Because we live in a lawless society. We live in a society where that does not keep an agreement, that agreements can easily be breached. But this is my take, my real concern. To me, I think ASU should continue with lectures, but ASU should explore this issue more from a legal angle. The Supreme Court is there. We can go over to the Supreme Court and ask for the interpretation of the 2009 agreement. Let's look at it. You know, because you see, I respect the law in as much as these politicians don't and might exploit the law against you. Let's do what is law, because this is what we're teaching our children, and that is the beauty of a democracy also. We can't be against the law.
Prof, where lies the future of the education of an average child?
This regime, as a matter of fact, that is not the priority of the President Muhammadu Buhari's regime. Just last week, we said it here again and again, when Minister of Education Adamu came out and admitted that this regime has failed education. 14 million out-of-school children, that is the highest in the whole world, and in Nigeria. And there's nothing we can do about it. The future of 14 million children in Nigeria, in the next 50 years, we might not recover. This is something that's there out on the street. Then you take tertiary education, universities paralyzed completely. It's obvious that the top priority of this regime is not education. To me, it appears as if, you know, Buhari is out already, and of course, it doesn't give a damn what is going to happen to him. His government has ended. You know, I'm saying it appears, so I'm saying it's not so. You know, so but it looks as if, no, that is not priority. This is a challenge for next presidents to come in. For the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, he has done a lot in some areas. But in the field of education, there's still more that desires to be done. Other presidential candidates coming in, and I'm happy that town debates or the town meetings or whatever they're being called, these issues are beginning to come up. You know, so we can see how other presidential candidates in this country will take education seriously, will make it a priority so that we can get out of this quagmire. No society develop the way we're going, because education is the bedrock of every development in society. Research funds the industries. Why our industries have collapsed completely? Because there's no research, there's no synergy. And so, of course, we remain in that situation for a very long time until we fix it.
All right, and maybe lastly, in summary, as we talked about the presidential candidates of various political parties, we're told this morning that Kwankwaso is joining OB on a dialogue to see how they can synergize. Now, if you look at the history of these two candidates, at some point there were rumors that they were supposed to form a political party on that level. That issue didn't see the light of the day. Each of them went his own separate ways. Now there is this rumor of them coming together. Do you see sincerity in this discussion?
Well, that is one thing about party formation and recruitment, and of course participation in Nigeria. You know, where you're just coming together, just like under a parliamentary system of government, but this is a presidential system of government, where parties can come together. There's always fusion. Alliances can be constructed between political parties for the sake of, winning power at the center. Let's see how it works out between Kwankwaso and Peter Obi. So far, so good. They turned out for whatever town hall meeting that was had, and of course, we're making progress in the right direction.
That does it in this segment of newspaper reviews here in NBS. I want to sincerely thank Professor Uji Wilfred for having your thoughts. Giving us your thoughts, and of course we hope that next time when we come calling, you'll be available for us. My name is Marjot from here, saying bye-bye.
It's a pleasure. Thanks.
And I am Patience Jacob, handing you over to Sarah and Kelvin for the continuation of the New Day show. Thank you so much for coming to the studio, Associate Professor Uji Wilfred Telimo. If you enjoy this newspaper review, why not join us tomorrow for another interesting package? Until then, bye-bye.